Welcome. Bienvenue.
Willkommen, all of those things.
Uh, of course. How's it going, man?
It's good. It's good. A lot of AI stuff happening. A lot of I've been working on
Yes,
some
a lot.
automated stuff, and so that's been fun. Last night made some progress there, and yeah. What about you? What are you seeing anything out in the world worth digging into today?
Um, One thing which I don't really want to talk about today, but just I was diving back into one of our internal tools and projects as a developer, and just like recommitting my love for MCP and how
You
great it is.
you still got. I have not had the light bulb. That's got to be.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
give
yeah.
me that next light bulb moment.
I'll explain. Yeah, I'll build that out
Okay.
soon for you. But it's just great. I love it, and everyone's coming to their senses and adopting it, and
But once I saw
and happy.
OpenAI adopted it, I was like, okay, this will be the standard.
Yeah,
Like,
it's the standard. It's great. It's wonderful. It's early yet, and there's so much more to do in the space, and the developers who are building that out, great job. Keep going. Love it. Do more.
yeah.
But yeah, so no, I don't really want to dig into that. So I had this other thing where I kind of wanted to just like riff on something, and I don't even know exactly where I'm gonna go with it. So bear with me,
Sounds like fun.
please.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll see if it makes any sense. And if it doesn't, I blame not me. Well, no, okay, I'll take it. So okay, here's here's the thing. So I was listening to the newest Tyler Cowen podcast. Do you listen to that podcast
I
sometimes?
know Tyler Cowan, but I
Randomly?
haven't listened to
Yeah.
his podcast. I've listened to him on
Smart
other
guy,
shows.
big fan of his.
He's the
I
one
think
who's
he's
just
great.
expertly whelmed. He's not
Yeah, man.
overwhelmed. He's not underwhelmed. He's extremely even keel.
That's a good way to put it.
Like,
Um,
you want to
yeah.
be just muted and like kind of brought
Yep,
back
yep.
to sea level. Tyler Cowan's a
Big
good dude.
fan. Big
Yeah.
fan. And super nerdy, and so definitely not for everyone. And my he's my kind of nerd. Um, so I was listening to it, and he had someone on. Her name is Jennifer Polka, I believe.
Mm.
She was super impressive. Um, in fact, I have this. What is she? Okay,
Show don't
she
tell.
is the founder and former CEO of Code for America. Worked in the Obama administration, and she founded the United States Digital Service, and has a background in computer gaming, media, and has written a book or maybe more books. But like, she was all of Tyler Cowen's guests are usually great, and she was no exception. So, um, one thing, but I bring this up to sort of kick off this unformed thought
Mm-hmm.
that I have, and what it is that I'm seeing in YouTube videos, podcasts, interviews, whatever, that intelligent people who are not just talking their book, right? So there's Dario Amodei, there's Sam Altman, there's the people who are like, AI is coming and it's here and it's going to change the world instantly, and isn't it amazing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those people are in the space, so we should listen to them, but they're also deeply motivated by making lots of money off of exactly what they're doing, right? So
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying is there's a bunch of intelligent people who are basically just becoming more and more convinced that AGI will be here soon. And AGI
I want to come back
is,
to AGI, the definition, if we have time today.
yeah,
Just,
of course, I agree.
I
I
don't want to trip
understand.
you up. Keep going. But
No, no, no,
I
no.
had a
Let's
thought on it today. It's not just empty digging. I have a thought.
cool, 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 cool. All right, so uh, that AGI will be here soon, and let's say soon is like 2 to 5 years. Okay, so something like that, right?
Okay.
And it seems Tyler Cowen is one of those intelligent people, right? He is not personally invested in any AI company or whatever, and he's just a smart guy talking about stuff with other smart people. And so um, that's what made me think of this. And so then like seeing that really intelligent people are becoming more and more convinced of this, and they're just kind of like talking about it as if, yeah, well, it's happening, it's gonna happen, right? Like it's
Mm-hmm.
just sort of a foregone conclusion, not a specific timeline, but it's just gonna happen. And so then it made me think of these things, and I wrote a couple notes down, right? So right now, the United States, we are Americans, you and I, but the United States, for better or worse, and we have our own opinions about this, but we're we're pissing off most of the rest of the world right now. Not everybody, but lots of people aren't
Little of
super
that
happy
going
with us.
around.
Yeah. And so there is this decoupling of connection and policy from our traditional allies, right?
Hmm.
And so then that that is doubled. That is, or that's like backed up by there. So there's news today that dropped. The EU has announced they are going to build AI gigafactories. They're going to spend 20 billion euros in a push to catch up with the US and China, right?
Hmm.
Okay, so that's interesting because what if what is it, is it a French company, Mistral, I think,
Hmm.
is sort of maybe the leader in that space. I'm not 100% certain who else is over there. I'm not that'd be good to look into.
Yeah.
But um and so that's interesting in and of itself, right? Like and then that leads me into this other thought that I had where I'm just super. It's connected and not. And like I said, this is going to be a rant. Like it's rambling all over the
Run
place.
it. Run it.
Google is actually like showing up right now, which is super great in my opinion. Google is showing up in the AI space and actually doing good things and interesting. People are excited about Gemini 2.5, and they were excited about Imagen or Imagine, however you say it, whatever. And so I'm excited about the market pressures from Google actually showing up and competing.
Hmm.
And so, how does that put pressure on all the other uh, players in the space? If the EU is actually going to go at it and say, look, we can't rely on our traditional ally, the US, because, like, imagine what is it, the counterfactual, right? That we had Hillary and Kamala as presidents, like we wouldn't have this decoupling of policy, and but we don't have that. And so
Yep.
now the EU is seeing, you know, it is what it is, and they're going to make the decisions that they're going to make for themselves, and they don't believe that they can rely on us like they used to be able to. And so then you have the market, if they do it and if they succeed at like building that infrastructure out, that's interesting. And what are the market pressures from that type of thing? Like, how does that sort of like seep out into the industry and into the world
Hmm.
in general? You have another one I saw. This is kind of connected. Canada's like limping into this. They announced they're doing 30 million support dollars to support like AI
Mm.
projects, and it's like,
That'll build
all
you a
right,
deep seek. That'll build
that'll
you a
build you
deep
this.
seek.
Yeah, yeah, fair
And
enough.
you know, if
If
you
they're
want
gonna
to,
take the China route, that's fair enough. And they're well, the tariffs aren't great on them, but they aren't at least banned from getting the latest chips. So,
yeah, the
anyways,
Chips Act didn't
um,
block
and
Canada, right?
then so to roll it then back to the Tyler Cowen conversation, there was at one point, Tyler brought this up, and I'm just gonna see if I can find it here. So, oh, basically they were talking about AI and national sovereignty. And so I'm just
Mm.
gonna read this. Like this is from the transcript. He says, "Let's say you're the nation of Peru, and AI becomes more important. You run a lot of your education system through American AI, a lot of your military, your cybersecurity, processing of social services. At the end of all that, after, I don't know, 15 years, are you even a sovereign nation still? Are we seeing this fundamental shift in what a government is? If the US government does something, at least it's US AI. Other than the US and China, it's far from clear how many countries will have their own AI. What's going to become of Peru?" And then Palka says, "I can't answer that question, but it's an excellent question. I think you see many countries realize this and take more drastic steps to maintain their sovereignty. I don't know how they're going to do it." And then Cowan says, "I think it's just backward. I think it's just stay backward, right? They could just not use AI, and probably some will make that decision. Uh, but that's a huge cost. And then there's countries like France, where maybe they can have where maybe they can have their own AI. They haven't succeeded so far, but at least you could make a run at it. Would you tell France, make sure you develop your own AI so you're controlling your own government?" Palka says, "Question back to you. Is there some way in which the market fixes this? Because there's a market for AI that doesn't implicate that there's serenity." Oh, I don't know what she meant by that actually. Um, Cowan, I worry that the economies of scale are in conflict with a number of nations in the world today. We are going to see a very radical shaking out that will go fully unadvertised, but at the end of it all, geopolitics will be very different. I don't know that France can build an AI good enough, actually. They had Mistral, so yeah, they still do. It's not making money. People want to buy it. Macron says we're going to basically prop it up, but you can't just prop it up. It has to be good enough to work and be competitive. And then she says, won't there be companies that have enough AI expertise they'll be able to cater to the needs of sovereign nations and say, I'll do this for you in a way that fits for your needs? Cowan says it could be France contracts with Anthropic, and Anthropic, in a sense, runs the French government, and maybe we trust Anthropic, but I'm not necessarily opposed to that by any means. But again,
Mm,
it's a very different world. Um, Anyways, that's that whole interchange, like you see what I'm saying, that whole exchange, right?
yeah.
Like from the this is where like I'm trying to like connect all these sort of dots that I'm just seeing going around. And I had not thought about the total implications of like actual national sovereignty in an era where what if it's just the US and China?
Hmm.
Maybe the EU pops up as a new player and actually creates their AI.
Mm,
Um, and then with the EU, maybe the EU AI covers that set of countries. But there's what 159 or 162 countries or whatever there is. I forget exactly how you
yeah.
count it these days. But I don't know. I mean, it's just kind like I said, it's a ramble, it's a rant. It's I'm just like thinking about a bunch of stuff, and I throw it all to you. What's the perfect answer for
What's
this?
the perfect
Solve the
answer for
world's.
future
Yeah.
government
What do
technology?
you think,
Yeah,
man?
yeah, yeah. I mean, two things come to mind, and then maybe I'll like stream of consciousness a little bit.
Yeah.
The two things that come to mind that say I'm not worried about that conversation at this point is one, like it sounds like a conversation, and I can't remember the details. I'm sure we did this a bunch, but like we had conversations 6 months ago that are completely irrelevant because of what has happened in the last 6 months, right? Like big conversations about forecasting and general intelligence, super intelligence, stapler AI gods from Nick Bostrom. Like we just like the half life of these theories is so fast
Hmm.
because DeepSeek happens or something happens next week that we just can't see because of so much at stake. I think that's the reinforcement of what they were talking about and what you were saying is like these are people who believe everything's at stake. Everything, the future, the control, the sovereignty of your own countries, right? And so they, whether that's true or not, if you have everyone believing like that and acting like that, it becomes true. It's not, I've tried to not talk about future states as one or the other. Like nothing is written in practical terms. Like we're not going to go down philosophical free will type stuff. But like if everyone's behaving as if sovereign states are threatened by this AI revolution, then they will be because that's all that defines the truth of that like sociological impact and things and geopolitical tensions. The other thing it makes me think of is biology and crypto. This was a crypto narrative and has been and still is. It's just not loud, especially this week. My
Hmm.
ETH is down the damn toilet, but hodl, baby. Uh, but like, like Balaji and the crypto maxis and the Bitcoin maxis were talking about this is basically a sovereign nation. And if you took all the holders of Bitcoin or you took the entire market cap of Bitcoin, it would be the sixth largest country or whatever, right? Like just however you want to intersect that. And it hasn't, in fast terms, it hasn't done the thing that people have said it was going to do, which is upend this whole thing. Now, maybe it's just happening slowly. Maybe it's a slow crypto rise and maybe that's true of AI with regards to the geopolitical impact. But I don't know. I think that it's like interesting podcast fodder, and then we're hopefully making interesting podcast fodder on top of that. In a summarization,
People
like we're
talking
giving
about
the
people
short
talking
version.
about people talking about
Yeah,
people
it's
talking
turtles all
about.
the way down.
Right.
But
Right.
but I also like Tyler Cowen's also the one. I mean, I just listened to him. Was he Lex? He was on Lex Friedman, and it'll be my second like Lex drop in a row. But he,
Tired of him these days.
fair enough. I love
Yeah.
Lex. He Tyler Cowen was saying he doesn't expect explosive economic growth.
Right.
He was saying like if you go back in time to the
The
most
roadblocks
explosive,
will be in place. Yeah,
yeah, the
there are
cultural,
these. Yeah,
societal roadblocks, just like we don't have autopilots for airplanes. We have autopilots, but we still have pilots. We didn't get rid of pilots,
yeah.
even though the technology could
Well,
fly and land the
to
plane,
be
right?
to be fair, the nuance he had was that there are industries and things that are just highly regulated, and then there are spaces that are not highly regulated. And so, in the spaces that aren't highly regulated, there's going to be massive disruption, is
Yeah.
what he said. And then in the spaces where there are like large amounts of regulation, you have unions and you have laws and courts and
Yeah.
blah blah blah, whatever. It's just going to go slow. It's not going to be crazy. But he was also talking about like he was also talking about massive amounts of like GDP growth, right? Instead of
Mm.
going from 2%, we're going from 10 to 20%. Well, like some people are projecting. And
He
so
believes that.
uh,
Tyler Cowen
no,
believes that that's
he
happening.
thinks that we're going to go to 2 or stay at 2.
Yeah,
Or
he thinks it's like two,
maybe
maybe four,
no,
maybe three,
we're going to
but
go to
like
2.5 or
right.
3, and that a 0.5% increase compounded over 20, 30 years
Oh,
is
it's
still going to be
massive.
amazing,
It's
but
still
it's not
massive.
the 10, 20% that some people, that the most, that the Zoomers are, not Gen Z, but the Zoomers are thinking are going to happen.
If you believe the superintelligence narrative that we will transcend LLMs remixing, absorbed content, and we can actually develop new novel ideas, and then those novel ideas lead to material science breakthroughs, LK99 superconductors, right?
Yeah, man.
Get into the
Yeah.
if that happens, that's what I think it takes to get 10% GDP growth or higher. You know what I mean? I think you
Well, I mean, this rolls then back to the definition of AGI versus what ASI. And so when I talk about ASI, it's that there's an event horizon where we are interacting with an alien species that has landed on Earth that is endlessly smarter and faster than us at any type of intellectual work whatsoever, and that then what you're then in contact with is like the David Deutsch idea of like you're only bound by the laws of physics, anything can happen. You want to create the universal constructor that can do everything, and then you have abundance throughout the entire cosmos because you finally have created, such a thing.
yeah.
And okay, great, cool. That's an amazing like potential future, maybe, possibly. But then there's AGI, right? AGI is not that, as far as like we're distinguishing. And I mean, do you want to speak to
Well, my
like
question about
what was your
AGI,
thing?
so general intelligence, meaning that this intelligence can be applied generally to any problem that we bring it to it. Um, I'm not talking AGI autonomous operator like has either programmed or baked in. I'm talking about the AGI that we query to respond. Okay. What does that look like? The right
Oh,
answer to every
so it's not an
question.
agent?
Well,
So it's not a like
if I
like
maybe we
like
should for
let me
our
ask you this.
yeah.
Let me ask you this. Is this AGI? I mean, would you put this under your definition? I'm some researcher in a lab that's trying to cure cancer, and at the end of my day, I tell the AGI that I'm working with to cure, you know, I don't know, prostate cancer or something. Like what's the cure for prostate cancer? And you just say go at it, and then it runs overnight, and you show up the next morning, and it did it. I mean, that's a dumb example of like obviously it is, but like obviously that's amazing and would
I
be
mean
an AGI, but
there's a lot of value in it. I guess it's I mean I was just listening to Peter Tia on Chris Williamson, and he was ended by saying like how complex, like since you used cancer as an example, like humans
yeah.
want there to be a simple answer and a simple cause and effect, and there just isn't. There's this just amazingly complex stuff, and so like we don't know that there is a pill that you could take to cure prostate cancer. If there is, and we have artificial
Uh,
general intelligence, maybe you want to redact that example or something. But what I'm saying, I won't
yeah.
beat that one up. But what I'm saying is like if you say, all right, let's take something more subjective. Write me a song lyric, right? Write me a song. Okay, what is the difference between GPT 4.5 or any of the things and general intelligence, AGI, to answer that question? Because there is not a right answer to the question. And so how satisfied I am with that response is subjective, no matter how intelligent the other party is. So I just think that there's this like AGI is thrown around, ASI is thrown around, especially like ASI is already like transcended AGI. And now we have this striation of superpowers that we all have our own lines on. Is it agentic? Can it do things? If it needed to requisition real estate for curing prostate cancer, is that required for it to be general intelligence? I don't think so. I think general intelligence is not required by agentic involvement and real world engagement. I think what Sam has been after is the E equals MC squared of intelligence, that if there's this reduced physical law, this like actual thing that we could say, now we've solved intelligence. And when I think of the myriad of questions I could pose to that intelligence, most of them don't have a true right answer. And so like how good you are at brainstorming ideas with me, I don't know. It's just like I am coming more on your track, which is that this architecture doesn't lead us to some super being that we think it does. And if you believe that part, then like you don't have to hypothesize about the like outlandishly intelligent imagination, because even though there's better at creativity and things like this, there's not a one right way. There's not like a singular truth to every question. And I think that's used in AGI as like, it's just going to get everything right now. AGI, once we get AGI, it just gets everything right. And it's like, that's not a realistic bar. That's like, the world doesn't work by getting everything right. It's messier and subjective and emotional, and all of that plays into truth. So AGI, I don't know. By my definition, we have a generally applicable artificial intelligence. That's not what other people use the AGI for. We have that. We can ask any question. We can have an intelligent response, not right all the time, not needing to be right all the time. And so that's my optics on it. And I just, maybe I'm too contrarian to adopt a standard definition. I also think like technology aside, we have shit definitions for consciousness and things like that. Like
I actually, the definition for consciousness is settled and known and not shit, but the we don't know how it arises or where it comes from. Like,
I mean, if you
we
read,
experience something. I mean, it's subjectivity. It's that's consciousness. I don't know. That's not. I don't think that's.
But if you read 10 philosophers' books or 10 physicists' books, like Michio Kaku, one of the books he wrote is like he starts by debunking previous definitions of consciousness and offering up his own, right? And like it's still a philosophically subjective thing. No, he's a jabroni.
Yeah, he's not my favorite, but whatever, it doesn't matter.
Second most famous physicist in the world.
I think that I largely don't care about the label of AGI, and I know I started this by using it, so that's whatever. But I do think, I think the conversation, like making how do I say this right? Especially for the people who are actually the researchers, who are actually working on this in this space, you need definitions. You need ideas of what things are, because you can't have an intelligible conversation about a thing if you don't have a definition for it. If I say, let's go hang out with the blah, 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 and you're like, wait, what's the blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, well, it's the blah, blah, blah. Well, there's no way we can talk about it. You don't know what I'm talking about. You don't know what it is. Like, it's like you literally can't have a conversation about it. I can keep saying the word, but if I keep saying the word, it's meaningless until I've actually defined it so that we have a shared understanding of what it means. Mm-hmm. So for people in the space who are working on this, they have to have this definition. They have to have their own, and people are going to come up with their own different definitions, and that's reasonable and fine, and people obviously disagree across the board on what these definitions are. And so for me, AGI is pretty irrelevant, and the reason that I think that the label of AGI is pretty irrelevant is because I think it's less well definable. And maybe I'm just passing the buck, and like it's almost kind of like a turtles all the way down thing like we referenced earlier. But ASI to me is essentially the like ultimate intelligence. What is the entity that can know all the things because it is endlessly intelligent? Is
Mm-hmm.
like it's only bound by the like energy that it can consume. And just because it can't consume, just because it hasn't built a Dyson sphere yet to grow to the next level, doesn't mean that it can't and it won't eventually. And like its current actuality of its potential is not, it's not a note on its limits in like in the future, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. That's a mouthful, but like, you know what I'm saying? So like ASI is the like the like synthetic god oracle thing, right? And that's how I see it. And it is what is, it solves physics and it
Mm-hmm.
knows all the things that are in physics, the rules of the universe it exists in, and then it can, do everything
Well,
if if it has the power to do the things with
I,
physics,
I'll walk
you
I'll
know.
walk that back one step and see how you feel about it, and then we can
All right.
close because this is a
Yeah.
dense,
This is,
short,
yeah.
long session.
Jesus.
But it's good. There's a lot of substance here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, it may not, ASI, artificial superintelligence, which is wherever your bar is for artificial general intelligence. Superintelligence is beyond that bar. Just relativistic definitions are
Yeah.
sometimes
Yeah.
as important, or comparisons are as important. But I would categorize superintelligence as something like the AI is already superior to humans in many ways, right? Like
Yeah.
better memory, faster like computation speed than our brains. Like our brains are massively parallel. Theirs are linear, but theirs is faster, but we're considering more and pulling from more sources, whatever the comparison you want to make. I don't know that my definition doesn't require ASI to have mastered physics, but can it?
No, but remember, like, just because it hasn't yet doesn't mean that that's a note on its limit,
I'm
eventual
sorry,
limit. You know what I'm
the way
saying?
you framed it and is that it hasn't built a Dyson sphere yet, a big, giant, globally sized, thing that's wrapped around the sun and the like half the solar system or whatever
What
the
I mean,
hell.
sorry, to just to add the caveat, what it is like, okay, if ASI, if we create ASI in what I'm talking about, then there are things that ASI inherently can't know right away, because what don't we know about the universes across the, or the galaxies across the universe,
Yeah.
and knowledge that is not possible for us to attain at the moment. And just because it can't know that right now because of distance or something like that, doesn't mean it isn't the like ultimate thing that could know those things with the right amount of time and like effort and possibility to expand out into the universe to then discover those things.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think we just need to workshop these definitions some more. I
You
think
mean
it might.
that's not clear what I just said? You mean it's not not straightforward and obvious what I'm talking about?
Well, I mean, my head goes to
I'm
like
confused by what I'm
eventuality.
saying.
You could take the industry, frame it as a machine, and say, well, eventually it will happen. I believe it will. You know what I mean? We already
Yeah.
have the beginnings. We have humans and technology, and eventually we'll get the silicone organized right and the whatever organized right. And then you could also envision a system that like it would be capable of something. You have a super intelligence that give it 2 processing years and it'll solve physics or whatever, but it requires humans participate and we pull the plug or we don't fuel it or something like that. Like there's a lot of, I don't know. I
Yeah.
think it's really difficult to suss out the sci-fi, which is why Tyler Cowen and the kind of rational approach is really important and really hard to. You have opportunists, which are the venture capitalists, right? Like you can't take a Mark Andreessen solely at his word.
Anywhere. You can't take him
And
anywhere.
you can't take him. It's why he can't have nice things. No, you can't say that his worldview is divorced from his incentive alignment for capital, right? And so, not to say that makes him wrong, but it just makes it true. Peter Thiel, when he talks about the worst thing for a company is for it to, the worst thing in the world is when a company dies. Well, that's from the perspective of an investor. I think the best thing in the world is when a company dies, including my past ones, because what it means is that the world corrected something that shouldn't have existed. Now, that wouldn't be good for investors, but so it's a perspective question on that front.
Yeah.
And so I think you have all this like these involved, partially to fully invested in a certain outcome, and they're the ones who are talking the loudest. And how do we How do we like find clarity there? I think it would be an interesting exercise for you and I to have a shared, agreed upon definition of AGI and ASI for this show.
Yeah.
For not that everyone else has to adopt that, but at least we
No.
have an anchor point that
To
can
my
be.
point, if you don't
Yeah,
have a shared definition, you can't really have a conversation about it.
yeah,
You're every time we talk about it, we're tiptoeing around the definition. We're like, oh, what about this and that? And oh, I need to clarify this and blah, blah. And it sucks.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's problematic, but it makes for good podcast fodder. I'd like to get past that. There's better fodder on the other side of that boulder. Like I'd like to
Yeah.
get past it. So
Yeah.
all right. Well, I've been doing some more pseudo agent building, so maybe we
Sweet.
talk about that tomorrow.
Yeah,
We
we can talk about it
did
tomorrow.
we did decide I'm not gonna pursue. I'm not gonna try to rush the real estate spot. Are you planning to share the lawyer spot tomorrow? Is that the plan?
Yeah, that's the plan. I still need to think about a few things there, but yes, that's the plan. And so that'll drop tomorrow. And yeah, I there's more to come on that front too. We'll talk about that soon.
Yeah, I'm excited. Excited. Awesome, man. All right. Well, happy Wednesday, and
Hey,
talk to you soon.
see ya.
See ya.